So then we are back with more understandings on the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find then the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Tzayelic lineage. So then, giving us the understanding of the time of the end, as per Yeshayahu, then the 61st chapter, we find then the time of restoration and reduction. When you read then Yeshayahu, the great prophet was simply explaining the cities laid waste for many centuries. Those were the cities of the Messiah, and prior of his ascension he said, "Go therefore around the world and form holy cities," or holy tabernacles. Thus then, continuation of tabernacling. So then, these days where we find ourselves then returning to what was, we understand then the time of the end has no news. As far as this tabernacling is concerned, there is absolutely not a paragraph of new information. We must discover what was then said previously, and then understand the time of the end as per the times and the seasons. During this time then, where then find our country in a huge crisis of moral problems, because obviously our government is replete with incompetent people and given a slack, because a lot of them, though they have lots of money, they were never taught properly. So then it doesn't take the importance of the responsibility. Yet there is a lot of work that must be done. And then the primary objective obviously is the system of removal of taxes, or then gathering of taxes instantly every time there is then earnings made in the internet or any kind of a system. Instant tax gathering must be done as the first objective. The second is energy. Not talking bad of the Chinese, but Mr. Chu is from Chinese descendancy. We have to scrutinize, make sure he is not part of the system yet to come, and then make sure he is not involved with some sort of trying to drag ourselves around, not being straightforward with the updating of our grid. So then these couple of objectives must be done. There is no excuse. Tax gathering instantly. Every time there is a purchase, then it's not counted. However, every time there is then obviously any kind of a earning, then should be taken taxes from. Because it was explained already, the problem with the new system of the Chinese is the same system closed. In other words, when you have, for instance, let's say PayPal, that's a financial system with a closed circuit. The government can't stick their noses in it. They have to stay away from. The new Chinese system is going to be such as, so when you make a purchase abroad, you receive an item for 10, no freight. The same way you pay the item is the same way you then receive earnings from. You invest in China, but then every time you invest in a certain product and then goes worldwide, you receive a portion of each investment you select from thousands of items that they produce. Then you receive the earnings via the same way you make a payment. How is it then government is going to find out what is purchase versus what is earning? Well, so then, after these, we understand Mr. Bernanke, then the chairman of the Federal Reserve, must come up with a system. Instant tax gathering every time there is a transition of then making investment, and then during the time a person makes investment comes then the earnings from what you give. It's not taxed. But when transitions back for you to cover your costs, then comes earnings. During this transitional time, the government must then take taxes from. So then how are they going to delineate what's purchase versus what's earning thus far? They don't have a clue. The federal government is as then a group of ostriches. It's not a compliment. They understand what ostriches do when they get threatened. They put their heads in the dirt. The government is involved with the Ozarks over there, making holes for themselves. That's the way the government is acting. Future ostriches. It's a very bad remark. Synonymous of incompetency, stupidity, combination of both, plus. So then, must come up with a system. And per the understandings of Yohanan, 8th chapter of Revelation, every nation doing trade with China. You know what this means? Every country is going to have its own system of tax gathering, including us. No exception. The second objective is obviously making sure then the grid is strengthened. Now let me ask you this. Then Mr. Chu, from Chinese descendancy, is he apt to do the job? Or is he in line with the future Chinese system and drag us around? It is inconceivable having such a rich nation with resources and coal, and then we drag around with this stupidity of smart grid and blah 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 and stupidity. But then these SOBs, they come up from rich families. They don't even know how to put up a fence in the backyard. And we are talking regular industrious acts with people that do not even understand how to put up a fence in the backyard. And the federal government, they think they are smart. But thus far, what the government has in mind is will stick themselves in holes. And then if you get upset and angry, you have a pride problem on top of it. Besides you being stupid, you have a pride problem. So the best is, with humility, then understand. We have to come up with a system, instant tax gathering. Each of them is specified. If you are receiving earning from any kind of investment, while the system is yet active. When our monetary system crashes shortly, 36 months or so, how is it the government is going to restructure itself? Then they have to fight with privacy of these private institutions. Is the government smart? No, they are not smart. Interestingly enough, the mountain over there where they think they're going to be sticking themselves in has 12 gates. They probably read somewhere, have no idea where, but for some reason they decide to make 12 gates. What kind of a monetary system are they thinking on using then? So let's try to be simple and objective, as for instance BK Precision equipment. No fancy. Though you can select some fancy equipment, but for the most part it's straightforward. Doing the basic job, and then gets done, moves to the next. There are other brands over there, they are a monstrosity of complication. As if you would tailor-made your own car. Extra jargon not required. Let me ask you this, how many of our politicians know how to measure the outlet of their homes? A lot of these incompetent people in the government, they never had received a shock. Do you think they know how to measure voltage? But then they read some sort of a scripture and they think themselves some sort of a favored only God knows from where, because the future of the government is stick themselves in the holes. Ostriches! During the Second World War, our boys were over there, came from farm families, they had to take care of the equipment. If you don't take care of the tractor, how are you going to get the harvest done? That's why the farm boys, they were the first to be hired. They knew how to take care of the equipment. But there we are, USA, after, roughly 70 years later, we got wallowed around technology, and then rather than going forwards, we walk backwards into the future. We can barely have enough energy in our grid because the Secretary of Energy is incompetent. We've got resources, we've got coal. We should be grateful. We have tons of coal, and great quality coal. Harvest from the mountain, throw in a furnace. So let me ask you this, what is this so complicated in the mind of this Secretary of Energy? He doesn't understand. You grab the coal, you crush it, throw it in the furnace, burn it, boils water going through a turbine, comes out electricity on the other side, step up transformer, there you have electricity. Either he's a retarded, or he was paid over there, walking around. Environmentalists, forget it. They're scoundrels. What kind of ideas they can provide to exchange for their ability of thinking? I understand, coal sometimes can be a bit unique, but do you have a substitution for it to make up for then the growth of the country? No, then shut up. Until you come up with a system of energy that's cheap, takes care of the crisis of the time, and if the environment, they only talk in their jargon without substitution of energy, then shut up. We've got to get energy in our grid. It doesn't have to be a smart system. But then, if the system of taxation doesn't get done, what energy for, huh? The government is going a hole anyway. They got their own grid. And the environmentalists, they are not going to be invited to live in a hole with them. They're stupid from A to Z. What else can a person say? We have rich deposits of coal and we are not using it. And got lots of people being paid a lot of money, they walk around enjoying each other's incompetence. And 70 years earlier, thousands of our boys lost their lives. Then the government cowards and go into the hole. Should give them a rifle and throw them in a war. Because international environmental blah blah blah. Leave them alone. They take care of their problems. Our country is in crisis. We have to have energy in a short term. Because the environmentalists. Do they have a substitution? No, then shut up. We've got to have energy in the grid. The best so far is coal. We are replete with coal. But then environment. The coal people are very aware of the basic problems of the environment. You can double stack, the filtering system over there, and it should be more than enough. Because international, forget it. Each country his own. We are going to get this environmental report done later, but not at the moment. But then can these two guys do the job? He's from Chinese descendants, for God's sake. Don't you have a link with China in this Secretary of Energy, drag around? So thus far, this is the plan of the government, going to a hole. On the Ozarks, in the midst of the forest, they got their own grid, they got crude, they've got underground linkage with the many parts of the nation, air conditioned. You know what they're expecting? The monetary system ruined. And they go underground, and the rest of us, it starts with F, ends with ED. The problem is, we want to have monetary system to get the system going. What kind of orders they are going to give from the hole? They are not going to hole or anywhere. They are going to stay up on the surface. And they're going to get this taxation system straightened out, working to perfection. And this Ozark junk is going to be obsoleted. Never imagine USA, great country, with stupid directives from the country. Absolutely amazing. But I've got a lot of respect for USA, because there are some of us who are very industrious yet. The problem is to get rid of these incompetent people of the government. They are there for so long behind the printing machine of money. What does it take to stick in their heads? They have to understand the system, the computerized system. And some of these older people over there, they don't even understand computers. They either retire or get the F out of there. Because if they don't understand computerized systems, what are they doing in the government? We've got to have the taxation taken care of and powered in the grid. Both of them are not being done.